Arc Raiders has done the impossible. It made the extraction shooter genre a mainstream hit. It's currently the highest watched game on Twitch. Hundreds of thousands of people are playing it at the same time, and it's bringing back something that I thought would never come back to gaming, and that's genuine connections with strangers on the internet that aren't completely toxic. So today, I just want to talk about the relevance of Arc Raiders' impact on not only gaming right now, but how things might play out in the future. But before we get into that, my name is Dan, and welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk your ear off about video games. So it wasn't that long ago that I was talking about Bungie's Marathon and how I thought that would be the extraction shooter to bring the extraction shooter genre into the mainstream bubble. And at the time, it made perfect sense to me because Bungie has done this before. They brought first-person shooters to consoles in a big way with Halo. They brought an online RPG to consoles in a big way with Destiny, so why wouldn't they be the company to bring extraction shooters to consoles in a big way with Marathon? And before we get too deep into this, I'm not here to compare Bungie's Marathon to Embark's Arc Raiders, but I do think the conversation is a little relevant because I thought one game would do it, but Arc Raiders is the one to do it. And if you've gotten this far into the video and you don't know what an extraction shooter is, I can break it down really quickly. You enter an area with the goal of collecting loot and escaping with your loot intact. But along the way, you're gonna run into some trouble, whether that be other players who want to take your loot or in-game enemies that are just flying robots with machine guns. If you manage to make it out alive with your loot, then you get to make new weapons, you get to craft new upgrades to all the things that you're working on back at home base. Some extraction shooters are much simpler than Arc Raiders and some are a lot more complicated, but the goal is essentially the same between all of them. And while the extraction shooter genre is by no means a brand new thing to gaming, there's something about the way Arc Raiders approaches it that does make it feel brand new. As a matter of fact, almost every single run is going to feel brand new because of the things that they've set up in the game that make it all feel very fresh every time. Usually games will randomly generate enemy placement and loot drop areas to make things feel fresh, but Arc Raiders does this with a little more of a subtle hand. And this emergent gameplay is made possible, of course, by the in-game robots that you're gonna fight, the Arc. They are very dynamic. They react to your movements and how you're fighting them, which makes them really terrifying as an enemy. But to really bring all of this home, it's other players that are gonna make your experience feel special almost every single time you go on a run. And you must be thinking at this point, why do I wanna fight other players on a run? That just sounds terrible. I don't wanna lose all my loot that I'm trying to grab. That's why I don't play extraction shooters. But 9 times out of 10, I've experienced other players who first start the conversation by saying, no, chill, don't shoot, friendly. And then we'll go on to have a little adventure. We'll find some loot together, we'll fight Arc robots together, and eventually we'll escape together. We're good. We are chilling. One more person, I think, maybe? Yep, come on down, there you go. There you go. Holy moly. Good job, everybody. This isn't to say I haven't run into people who straight up just start shooting at me and kill me and take my stuff. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've downed another raider yet because I'm just not that good at the PvP at this point. That could also be because I try to start every single interaction with a raider in a friendly way because for me, that's a lot more fun than just fighting each other. Yo, friendly! Alright, dude. And there are players with different mindsets on this approach. There's me, who wants to be friends with everybody in Arc Raiders, and there's other players who just want to loot other raiders to get their stuff. And this is what makes the game really start to tick. This kind of online interaction is something I have not experienced since the early days of Xbox Live, when we were all just kind of new to this online gaming thing, and having a conversation with strangers in different states and parts of the world was really just novel to us. How you doing? I'll give you one of my guns. Dude, you are an actual lifesaver.
Thanks.
Do you want a level 4 gun?
Okay.
And from then until now, I've usually kept my mic off unless I'm in private party situations. I just don't need to hear other people calling me names as they kick my butt in video games. That's just not something I want to do. And you would think that an extraction shooter where the stakes are so high, you've got all this loot on you and other players want to get your loot, you would think that this is not the kind of scenario where everyone would be friendly, but it is. And that's the thing that I think makes Arc Raiders kind of special. And this is what's making Arc Raiders such a uniquely refreshing online experience in in gaming. Not just the community around the game, but also the community within the game. And it's that in-game community that I think people are really enjoying right now. As a matter of fact, I ran into a nice person on a raid last night, and now they're on my PlayStation friends list so that we can run duos together in the future. So somehow this game has tapped into one of the oldest reasons why online gaming was fun, and that is just making friends with random people on the internet and have it not be a bad thing. I've also had many runs where people are actually sharing loot with me, where they're like, yeah, we just wanted to fight the big robot, but you can have the epic loot that it has inside of it. No worries, have a great time. So there's just lots of really special interactions happening right now within Arc Raiders, and I do think that's in large part due to the way that the game is put together. On top of all of these social experiences that are happening, Arc Raiders at its core simply feels really good to play. Starting with the environmental design of this game, every single area is war-torn. The context here is that we lost a war with the robots, which feels way too appropriate these days, and this is the result. Now we have to go search the top side to get loot, bring it back underground so we can rebuild whatever we're rebuilding. And the game tells you this story. I haven't looked at many security logs or anything that let you know exactly what happened, but I know what happened in each of these places because it's very obvious the way things look. And this environmental design is supported heavily by some really good sound design in each area. And I'm being specific on the areas here because there's one part of the sound design we'll talk about in a second that kind of stinks. Being in every area not only looks amazing, but sounds incredible. You hear the leaves of where you're at, you hear the wind. You're not sure if that buzzing is a bird or a drone flying over your head trying to kill you.
Wasp, there.
And every robot in this game has its own distinct sound, to the point where I can identify that a Bastion is off into the distance because I heard its feet move, or I know what an arc probe sounds like in that direction, so I know I can get some loot over there. Arc Raiders manages to teach you so much about its narrative without saying a word. And speaking of speaking, one of the things I really don't like about Arc Raiders is its voice acting. Not long after the game's released, it was confirmed by, I think, one of the CEOs involved in the game that they used AI to generate the voices. The company that made Arc Raiders paid voice actors to train an AI to then generate more lines without them needing to do it physically. And you can absolutely tell that people aren't physically delivering the lines that you do hear from the characters in this game.
Whatever happened up there, clearly thanks. That should last a while.
And while this doesn't completely ruin the experience, I do think that it does rob Arc Raiders of what could have been a very flushed out world of not only really cool areas and big robots, but relatable characters. Instead, they just sort of serve as vendors that give you quests every now and again, and they talk about how hard the war is against the robots, and they're very forgettable. Getting loot is obviously one of your main goals, but there's also quests that you can run with the in-game vendors that make each run a little more worth doing. These quests give you a reason to go to certain areas that you might not usually want to go to, or to try different tools and weapons that you might not usually try. And as somebody who has personally avoided extraction shooters for the most part because I don't want to lose hours of progress in a second, I don't feel as though I've ever really lost too much progress in Arc Raiders. There have been a couple of painful runs where I lost some of my favorite weapons, but the game gets you right back on your feet, gives you some new weapons to start off with, and then you can start building back up from there. I dare say that sometimes it's kind of fun to have to start fresh with your weapons because there are still so many other ways you've progressed through the game that it doesn't really feel like a hard reset. It's not too involved where I feel like I have to play every single day to keep up with other players, but I have been playing at least once a day since I've started playing it. All of this is to say that Arc Raiders has truly struck a chord with me because I always knew that I really wanted to get into an extraction shooter, but I never found one that was really my speed. And that specific speed apparently is the right speed for an extraction shooter in the mainstream because, like I said earlier, it's a breakout hit. I feel as though the online gaming community needed something like Arc Raiders to shake things up. I think at this point now, we're gonna start seeing a lot more extraction shooters break into the space but I think it's going to be really interesting when Bungie's Marathon does eventually release. Did Arc Raiders set the table for Marathon to be the next big extraction shooter, or is Arc Raiders going to be the crowned king of the genre for years to come? Feel free to drop your take on that question in the comments, especially if you're playing Arc Raiders, because honestly, I feel as though people who weren't enjoying extraction shooters are now, and that means they might be searching for some more. So let's talk about this game. If you liked this video, make sure you like the video, and if you really like this video and you want to see more of this, then make sure you subscribe to my channel. Other than that, good luck topside, and I will see you in the next video.